Do you have any advice, kind of circling everything back with communication and the design team? Do you have any advice on communication between design professionals and manufacturers?
I do, and again, this is another one that I struggled with because the easy answer is believe everything I say and use all my products in all your buildings. But that's not very practical. I think the best thing would be, to your point, and you're very good at this, and there are others in town that are, is whenever we're reaching out to you, if it's a follow-up from a download, if it's follow-up from an event, or say Build Pittsburgh where we talked about a particular project, even if when we're following up, even just a simple reply or a return of a call, return of a text, or even an email, even if it's we're no longer using your project or the project is off the job, then we'll stop harassing you if we know that you're not using us. But they should never, I don't think anybody should ever be embarrassed if something's changed and you're not using a product that you originally engaged with us over or reached out to us. And then, as I mentioned, earlier, is communication. I almost jumping ahead about advice to the career professionals. Communication is so important, and the way it's presented. One of the things I've learned from mentors over the years is keep everything short, to the point, conveying a very clear message, and try to refrain from using. Hey, I know this sounds weird, but using fancy words. If you're talking to somebody and they've got to, look up on Google what a particular word means, then the message is just lost. And I think that can be applied whether you're communicating with us, you're communicating with coworkers, a boss, a client, contractors. Just keeping things very clear, short, and to the point makes it so much easier. And asking questions, especially for young folks. The old adage of we never learn anything when we're talking really rings true. When you listen to other people, you'll learn an awful lot. And if there's something you don't understand, ask the question. There's, again, another adage of the only dumb question is the one that's not asked. Really rings true for me, is don't be afraid to ask questions. Never assume anything in our business or any business, especially when you're communicating with people.
Yeah, assumptions are dangerous.
Very dangerous. When you spread the word assume out, it spells 3 words, ASS, you and me. Assuming things will definitely make an ass out of you and me if you make an assumption.
I'm going to use that acronym. Maybe I'll make it as a poster or something. I'm looking at the picture on my wall that I wrote out in black Sharpie about 20 years ago when I made that mistake and I looked like an absolute fool. You always got to learn something.
That's right. We learn the hard way.
But that ties into my next question. So over the years, what are some lessons learned that have really stuck with you besides the poster in front of you?
Listening is a big one. As I mentioned, I'll never learn anything if I'm talking. Listening to people in our business on every end of the food chain, because everyone we're dealing with on a job has a different need. The person I'm selling to, the contractor, has one need. You as the architect has another need. Your consulting engineer, again, different. Owner, different. And then my manufacturer and their suppliers behind us all have different needs. And so when you're listening to everybody, you can learn an awful lot, and that really helps solve everybo's problem very quickly, because we're not perfect. We're not doing things in a perfect world. Problems happen, and solving them quickly is the best way to do it. And if you understand everybody's issue on a project when it involves a problem, then you walk away with a very satisfactory client, a very satisfactory response and result.
Yeah. And that ties, you've been doing great on tying into all my questions today. When communicating design intent in the construction documents, whether it be drawings or specifications, do you find there's either typical trip-ups, or do you have any advice for design professionals putting together those documents that you can understand them better and the manufacturer can understand it better for better bids and...
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's again, you've got 23 divisions and how many products in a division. It's difficult. I would stress again, whatever information you're using to develop your documents. Again, not using the assume word. Most people out there are using Revit, which is a fantastic tool to design a building. Working with those manufacturers that have Revit models, plugging things in that way, converting them obviously to your two-dimensional documents. But with that comes a little bit of a caution. Some of our manufacturers don't do as good a job of keeping their websites updated. And it's embarrassing when somebody designs around a product and specifies it only to find out it's no longer available. Or a component of a product is no longer available. Some manufacturers, to get traffic and advertising, will put things out there that are in, say, research and development and maybe not available right now. I can't tell you how many times we're told by architects, well, your website shows that you're automating this operable glass wall. And when I say it's not available, they don't believe me, because they, like all of us in our lives, when we see something out there published in the public, we assume that it's available. And in this particular instance, this particular designer did not want to believe me that this product was not available because they found it on the website. So again, I would just say, using all those tools, it's important for checking, and especially before your documents go out the door. Check with your reps that handle these products and have somebody look at it.
Yeah. And it's always hard when you have to, if it's a bigger glazing mullion system and trying to put in a basis of design detail, if an alternative gets picked, that detail may need to change because we did all the work based on that particular system and how that goes in. And if we've got to swap it out, what does that change? Everything. But
it is problematic when you have that situation, especially when it's not a privately funded job where you can insist on one brand or one profile. That's where you've got a big job ahead of you. We don't envy it. I know people complain a lot about documents being what they are today, good or bad, or if they are bad, people complain. But you just don't have a very easy job to do when it comes to coordinating and all of that.
Yeah. Well, it's easy to have what I call Revit vomit everywhere. Revit is a great tool, but you could elevate and detail every little section of the model if you wanted to. But you have to look at it from the lens of the contractor who's needing to build it, the trades that are looking to put it together, and the manufacturers bidding it and putting it out there. So you have to kind of look at it in a different lens, and just because you can create everything doesn't mean you need to or should.
No, I agree. And, it's along those lines, I'm really surprised, and I see it in other parts of our territory. So outside of Western PA, we sell in Ohio, we sell in West Virginia. Years ago, the state of Ohio changed all of their public bidding procedures, where they no longer require a building owner to go out to the traditional public bidding method that we see here in the state of Pennsylvania. And one of them is design build. The other one is CM at risk. And CM at risk seems to be the most popular choice in the state of Ohio, especially for the public schools. And I'm really surprised we have not seen that catch on more here than it has over there, because it puts the architect and contractor together so early in the process. And in a lot of those cases, especially design build, the architect doesn't have to get down to that last little T and I and period and exclamation point in their specification and their documents to have it bid, have it be on budget, and then build it. And I'm just surprised that hasn't caught on here like it has in other states.
Yeah, I rarely have a project that I'm in design only for the entire design phase. I'm rarely not having a contractor on board early anymore to help just kind of cross-check. Let's do cost estimating at each phase along the way, or even if I've got questions on, hey, this is going to be tricky, how would you build it? What other products have I not looked into yet? And try to brainstorm with them through design challenges and construction issues while in design. So it's not going to be costly change orders in the end, and we can come out with a better product.
Yeah, I think design assist. That process has helped an awful lot. And I know we are seeing more of that here in our territory, but I'm still a little surprised design build or CM at risk hasn't been a little more prevalent project delivery method here in our market.
Someday.
Maybe.
A little bit of a tangent. Have you seen from your products, I know with COVID, we hit a lot of lead time issues. Have you found kind of that landscape of lead times changing a lot faster than they used to between lead times and pricing of products? Have you found that to be another segment of your position in terms of helping architects and contractors?
Yes, a short answer. We've all learned very quickly, and we're trying to advise people of what things they either should avoid or what things they might want to embrace to avoid some of those issues. Within about the last 8 to 12 months, we've finally seen things. Certainly, pricing has stabilized. Lead times seem to have stabilized as well. We haven't seen pricing come down in a lot of our products, and I know I've had that conversation recently from people as to why, and the answer that we're getting is yes, aluminum, for example, raw glass, for example, has dropped from what it was, say, 2 years ago. But unfortunately, the cost of labor, the cost of gasoline, transportation has all gone up. So there has been an unfortunate offset in an awful lot of what should have been less costly finished products in our market. Lead times have fortunately stabilized, and we've been lucky that our manufacturers haven't been. I've heard a lot more horror stories in other parts of our construction world, and our manufacturers have been pretty good about that. I think the biggest problem we've had was just with some products that come from overseas and the issues with ports. But Caitlin, we've been very fortunate that our manufacturers haven't been in that bad a shape compared to some other horror stories and I'm still hearing, but ones we've heard in particular and still carry on.
Yeah, because I was under construction during most of probably the later part of COVID, but it was just a fit out, so I didn't have exterior conditions and exterior products to deal with, but interior it was getting calls for copper shielding and, hey, you better review this submittal because price is going to go up and it's going to charge the owner $1 million with the amount of copper we have. And so I'd be running in to make sure any submittal, like, hey, are there any issues coming up? And after that, I know when I started my career, it's like, hey, look in the RS Means book to how much something costs to compare. I'm like, I don't want to trust any publication anymore because things can change as quickly as the stock market. And so I know even if I sit through a lunch and learn presentation, I don't even want to see dollar amounts because I know it's not going to be accurate. I'd rather say, hey, here are products, here's your good, better, and best level, and hey, it goes from the good price versus 2 times versus 6 times the cost, so I can understand that sense to when I'm designing something. But yeah, lead times and costs were definitely a big learning experience.
It's been a challenge, and I've been at it a few more years than you, and I found myself getting re-educated on a weekly basis, and finally realized that everything I used to know about cost and our manufacturer's lead time that I could just rattle off the top of my head, I've decided to forget all of it, and I simply tell people, I'll check.
Yep.
and let you know. Yes. I don't trust anything anymore with changes that take place that I don't even think of.
Yeah. And just trying to keep track of it all. Some things are not worth keeping to memory.
Yes, exactly. And it's amazing how things you just don't think of impact your business. And even aside from what we sell and do, was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I started hearing people complain about the cost of simple, basic steel shapes. And the cause of the cost going through the roof was Amazon and all the facilities they were building, just driving the cost of simple steel square tubing, angles, bars to make shelves to store goods in all of their distribution centers when they were building like crazy. Something that never even crossed my mind.
Yeah.
And now we're paying 2 times the cost or 3 times the cost for just very basic stuff, just because one consumer was dominating the market and buying all the product.
Yeah, and I'm sure locking in on getting a certain quantity by a certain time and on this schedule, and then just eats up the whole line.
And then the 1 or 2 suppliers that were locked into them, all their competitors took full advantage of it because they could service everybody else, and then they just
jacked it up.
Jacked their pricing right up. Yep, exactly.
Architects need to learn that lesson sometimes. Everybody's busy. And then shifting over to organizations, has there been an organization that has really left an impact on your career journey?
I won't name any of them because the organizations I think of that have left an impact were all bad ones. And so I've learned how to recognize very deceiving companies, crappy companies. So I've learned from organizations in a bad way. So I really didn't want to discuss that. What I've learned positively have all been people. Other rep firms around the country that are the next generation ahead of me, between, say, my dad's age and my age. They've been mentors of mine over the years. A lot of sales managers that we've run calls with and been in project meetings and discussing details and specifying things and closing work, selling work, and coordinating all that. That's where I've learned the most from those two kind of entity of person across my career. Aside from my dad, obviously. I know
Can't give him all the credit.
I just glossed over him, but that's like any of us that come into the business, you learn from your immediate mentor, and in this case, it's my father.
Check out the full discussion from this bite of advice here. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more mentorDINO content.